Hey everyone, we're just giving it a minute for the last people to come in, then we'll make a start. Hey guys. All right. Great. Welcome everyone. Great to see a lot of people trickling in. Welcome to our very first Women in Business conference. We're very excited to host all of you here today. We're expecting a lot of female professionals and founders that will all be joining us during the course of the next hour for a day packed with really exciting content. I always like to start with just the story around founders events. So we've been hosting founders events for about 4 years now. Just looking to find a platform in which one could bring together entrepreneurs and professionals and people operating originally in the Cape Town entrepreneurial scene, but more recently a bit more across the world with all of the events being virtual. We found that the journey of building your career or building your company is often quite a lonely one, and it's really cool to connect with other people who are doing the same kind of thing, and that are on a journey to improve themselves, to improve their lives, to improve the lives of the people in their companies, and who are just general operators. So in that context, we created a couple of events. We've got at the end of the year, we've got a founders conference that we can look forward to. It's always our big flagship event around Global Entrepreneurship Week in November. We've also got Fundraise Con in the beginning of the year, and Scale Up Con around the middle of the year. So 3 kind of major conferences. But we also often see gaps in the annual calendar for entrepreneur-focused events that we feel need to be filled, to bring good content, good speakers together, and to share thoughts and ideas, which I think can inspire, can motivate, can bring people together in a time that has really kind of caused people to separate, that can cause people to be alone in their journeys. All of us have been working from our spare bedrooms for the last year and a half. We haven't been able to see each other in the same way as we used to. So we thought what we want to do for Women's Month is just to create a new event around women in business, which I think all of you guys on the call would agree. It's really a big mega trend around the world at the moment. Like female leaders are stepping up in various spheres of leadership, and I think gender equality across the board, especially in business and politics, in all kinds of leadership around the world is really spiking right now, which is super exciting. I think, if one thinks of the feminine characteristics that are kind of traditionally defined as feminine, I'm thinking of something like vulnerability. Like someone like Brené Brown has really broken this wide open for the whole world to better understand how vulnerability flows into creates a better life, a better business environment, better focus, and a whole bunch of other things. I'm also thinking of like something like empathy, being able to really engage with people, to connect on an emotional level in a better fashion. I think those are like big trends in business, whether you're male or female, and just kind of living those female characteristics that are so strong in this environment, whether it's operating your company or just operating your life. So yeah, today we're super excited to share thoughts from a couple of really exciting female leaders from different walks of career with you guys. I want to quickly just draw up the presentation here. Give me 1 second. Great. So just from my side, from everyone at Outsource CFO and Founders Events, just welcome to the event today. We're super stoked to have you guys here. Great to see some good numbers coming in. I'm very excited to share all of this with you today. Just in terms of the agenda, what we can look forward to in the next little bit more than an hour and a half is basically all structured around a couple of core themes. So the first one is around women in people, thinking about people management and company culture in a time such as this, which is quite unprecedented. Rose will be taking us through that. We're going to speak to some females in the profession. We've got one of the smartest legal professionals I've ever met to talk about females in the professions, like your accounting and legal professions and the likes. We're going to talk about females supporting entrepreneurs. Our very own Christy and Lizanne will take us through a couple of thoughts from female leaders in the entrepreneurship space. We are then going to stand still with one of our favorite female founders. All of you guys will know Yvonne Wakefield from Caveat Legal by now. She's going to be sharing her journey with building a company over the last couple of years. We're very privileged to hear from Simbili today, who's going to lead us in Women in Finance and Investments session a little bit later on. And then we'll end off with Laura, who's going to take us through Women in Incubation and Acceleration ahead of closing our session today. So yeah, from my side, just want to say welcome to everyone. I'm super excited about each one of the sessions. I think we've got some really great power speakers today lined up. We'll be able to share some really good insights and ideas around their careers, their journey so far, and how they see the world in this ever-changing time that we find ourselves in. So that is it from my side. Without further ado, I'll then maybe see if I can get Rose to step up onto the stage with me. Rose, are you online with us yet? Just trying to see if I've got Rose. Rose is not with us yet. I think we're a little minute or so ahead. Maybe she will jump on just now. Otherwise, what we can also potentially do, I see Keelan is online. Keelan, would you mind if we ask you to swap just while we wait for Rose to connect with us?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect, brilliant, guys. So it's a big honor for me to welcome Keelan van der Walt, all the way from Mauritius, tuning in today. She's the drive and the founder of Regan van Rooy, which is an international tax consultancy based out in Mauritius that serves clients all over the continent and all over the world to think about the right tax structures for their shareholders. She's one of the smartest legal professionals I've ever met. We're very privileged to have her speak today around kind of females in the profession. Keelan, we're very excited to hear what you have for us today.
Thanks, Lo. And it's been very exciting for me to think about what to discuss here, because I've done lots of webinars and presentations, and it's always been about technical stuff. And this is the first time I've been asked to talk about women in business in general. So what I thought would be helpful is to share my story and some key learnings from my side, and some key challenges I've come across in my career that has impacted my business journey. So I'm Irish, that's why I have this very strange name, although I do have a son called Lo, and obviously I'm Mrs. van der Walt, so I'm half South African. I'm an accountant, and my career, I basically only ever worked in 4 places: Arthur Andersen in London, Deloitte in London, Sasol in Johannesburg, and then I set up Regan van Rooy in 2016. And my time as a woman in business at those 3 wonderful firms, Andersen, Deloitte, and then Sasol, are what led me to set up my own firm in 2016, which was initially an all-women firm, and this year ceased to be an all-women firm, which was quite a big decision. So I wanted to discuss that whole transformation today. But first of all, I want to start by saying that I think it's obvious to everyone that this is the best time in history to have been a woman. And it is certainly the best time in business to be a woman. There is nothing that we cannot do. There are no doors that are closed to us, technically at least. And there is a lot of affirmative action to support women to get to senior leadership positions in business. Now, the reality is that women are still not in senior positions, even though there are more women than men in the lower level positions. So we're not quite achieving the equality of output in terms of women in business, but we certainly have no formal obstacles in our way. And so I feel very privileged to live in a country and in a time in the world where, as a woman in business, I feel that I can do anything I want just as well as a man can. And I don't know how old I am relative to the rest of you here. I assume I'm older than most. I'm 44. And when I started work, I saw a lot of what I think of as casual sexism. And that is something that I think has largely ended over the last couple of years with the Me Too campaign and other similar movements, which I think also makes it an exciting time to be a woman. And I certainly, as a youngster in London, and even in those wonderful firms, I was exposed to, what I think of as casual sexism, day-to-day sexist language and behavior that I think is happening less and less today. So overall, I think great time to be a woman in the world and a great time to be a woman in business. In terms of my career, when I look back, I think about what I call the maternity plateau. Now, this is something that by no means happens to all women, but for many women who choose to become a parent, there can also be a choice to kind of plateau a bit in one's career. And that's something that I certainly did, partly through choice and partly through circumstance. And I want to spend some time talking about that today. So in the developed world, there are typically more female graduates than male in any business profession. So, for instance, I started as a graduate at Arthur Andersen in London. There was 80 people in my intake, pretty much split equally, men and women. There was slightly more women than men, but not a single woman from that intake became partner, whereas about over a third of the men became partner. So that is, in an anecdotal way, quite a powerful reflection of what happens in the corporate world, when essentially there are generally more lower level women than men, but far less senior women than men. So in the Big Four, and I'm an accountant, I'm not actually a lawyer law, although I work in tax, which is kind of very legalistic. But in the Big Four, typically there's about 52% women graduates, but only about 20% women partners. And in my view, it is a lot to do with the issue of parenting and how that impacts on a woman's career. So when I became a parent when I was at Sasol. I actually had 5 children in 5 years, which was pretty intense by anyone's level of thinking. And I took a deliberate decision to do 2 things. First of all, not to go to part-time, because I had seen many, many examples of women who had chosen to work part-time or reduced hours and ended up essentially working the same hours for less pay, or slightly less hours, but much less exciting work and less scope for betterment. So I was always keen that I wasn't going to take that part-time option, because to me, having seen from large corporates how it impacted women who wanted a part-time role, it meant that they had much lower quality work and were treated much less well. So I always intended to stay full-time. I was very lucky that I had a boss and a team that was supportive of flexible working. But I certainly made a conscious decision, not one that I necessarily made explicit to my boss and my team, but that I was not going to seek to progress my career for at least 5 years. It was essentially more or less 8 years from having my first child in 2011, that I think of now as the plateau stage of my career. And only after that, I had this, what I think of as a second wind, which actually led to me setting up Regan Van Roy. I think this is a critical area for many women. So many women either choose not to have children, and interestingly enough, there is a very high level of senior women in business who have no children. And in politics, you might remember the famous Economist cover that had Angela Merkel and Theresa May when they were the leaders of Germany and the UK, respectively, with a cartoon of an empty crib. So there is a strong link between senior women in positions of power and women who choose not to become parents. But I see that when the split in terms of women coming into the workforce, even in technical areas, 50-50 alongside men, then it's maternity that turns it into less women continuing full-time and less women coming to partner level or other senior levels. So that is obviously very endemic in the corporate world, where there is a very strong presenteeism focus and a big focus on a corporate culture. I think that is less prevalent in startups. So I'm very interested to hear how it is in the companies that the founders on this call have set up. But having seen that from personal experience, first of all, how when women have children, end up being kind of given second tier career options and not given the opportunity for promotion. That was largely what led me to set up Regan van Rooij in 2016. What I wanted to do was to tap into what I saw as the high number of highly skilled women who were able to get to the top of their field in the technical area of international tax consulting, but did not have attachments to the title and the salary and the size of their budget and the size of their team, but wanted to do good work in a safe environment with challenging with scope to grow, but without any of the politics or posturing involved. And I was very interested to see that there was a big interest in that from women. So we didn't intend to be all women when we set up, but it was a group of 5 women who got together initially to work under this banner. Interestingly enough, of the 5 senior women and 2, so kind of 5 partner level women and 2 senior manager level women, I was the only one who had children, which I think speaks to the previous point I made about the cost that having children, or certainly wanting to focus less on career in a corporate whilst having children or while having young children. I think that shows how that does impact one's career path. But yeah, so the reason that we wanted to set up Regan van Rooij was twofold. One, to tap into this pool of women who wanted quality work, not interested in politics or posturing. And secondly, to provide a way for women who had different requirements in their life and different priorities. I assumed mainly they would be children, but like I say, a lot of the women didn't have children, to work together in a collaborative way, where in the same way that if I'm a partner at PwC, I can say to one client, sorry, I can't help you on that today because I'm busy with this other client, that we would work together to support ourselves, to give our other priorities in life the same importance as another client would have. And my particular passion has always been supporting women to return to the workplace after maternity leave. I have seen time and time again women who take an extended period of maternity leave, they come back, they're less respected in the workforce, and they lose a lot of confidence. So therefore, they don't do maybe as good at work as they could. Then it becomes a vicious circle where they're kind of kept in a lower position, never reclaim their confidence, never then reach the senior levels. So that for me was a very personal driver in Regan van Rooij to provide a clear framework for women returning from maternity leave to still have a meaningful career with real development, while it being understood that either they weren't working full time or that they had other priorities that were just as important as their work. So I think that's, I'm not sure how much time I have left, Lo. You might need to give me a bit of a steer, but that was one of the key points I wanted to make today. That I think it is important for everyone in business who is either a woman or working with women to be aware of the impact that maternity policies and maternity practices can have on people's career. And I think there is a real gap for support for women who have taken a period out of the workforce to be able to get back in. So many of those individuals are not given the support they need, and therefore what they maybe start by intending to be a 2-year maternity leave or even a 6-month maternity leave can mean to them never working at the same level for the rest of their lives. No, I'm not sure how long I've been speaking for, but I think, sorry, because I didn't check the time before we started.
You're doing perfectly well. We've got another minute or two. Let me see if I can find a question from the audience for you. I've just put a point up to ask if anyone has a question with regards to your career journey. But thank you very much for sharing all of that. I think your take is absolutely spot on in terms of this. This being a very exciting time for gender equality and for female founders and female professionals. It's really exciting.
Great, thanks, Lo.
Brilliant. Let me see, guys. Anyone with a question for C? Keelan, maybe I'd like, while we wait to see if we get one, I'd love to ask kind of like what exactly sparked that new breath of life you mentioned, that you got to start the new business. I think that's quite an exciting one to always think about, like, why do people start at the point where they do?
Yeah, well, so for me, it was seeing that I wanted to work at the top of my game, but I didn't want to work in an office from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening. So for me, it was largely driven by work-life balance and wanting flexibility because of my family. So that was how it started. And only afterwards did we start to look at, actually, it's not that we can do the same as other people, but with greater flexibility for us, we can actually do something that's better than what other people are doing out there. And maybe I can just touch on why we welcomed men to the fold this year. So we were an all-women firm for 5 years, from 2016 until the beginning of this year. And then after we had a number of people move in and out, and then towards the end of last year, we realized we were all white women. And then we thought, okay, it's good to be pro-women, but it is not good to be exclusive in any way. And we certainly were not comfortable with calling ourselves all anything if we were all one race. So that was when we decided to open our doors a bit more. And we now have 3 men in the team. And it's been very nice that the men are still very much in the minority, which I don't think bothers them. But we do think it was the right call for us, because I think that and this is something I think is interesting for a women in business discussion at all. In general, it is important to be supportive of women without being unsupportive of the other, i.e. of men. And that is always the danger with being focused on one group, that we don't want to be exclusive. And it's also important as a woman to ensure we don't replace the kind of old boys club with a new girls club.
That's well said. As well said, yeah, I think at the end of the day, a balanced organization in terms of different walks of life, different outlooks makes a lot of sense. We started as three men back in the day, and at the moment we're, I think, just over half female in the team. And I must say, like, having a mix of different languages, races, genders, and different people from different walks of life and from all over the country in one organization just brings a lot of ideas and a lot of excitement to the table. I think this this comment is spot on. A diverse team tends to be a higher performing team. I think you just have a broader amount of input and ideas from different kinds of people who think in different ways, which I think is quite healthy.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I think that's super amazing. Christy's got a question here.
I see, yeah. And let me answer that, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't saying that. So I do not think it is necessary for a good mother, whatever that means, to have this kind of plateau or to take time out of work at all. I think that certain women choose to have children, and certain women choose that when they have children, they will not focus on their career. Depends on a variety of factors. In my view, in South Africa, it is easier to continue full speed ahead with your career because there's such good support, less so in Mauritius where I am now. In my personal view, it also depends very much on if you're in a partnership, what type of role your partner has and who's kind of takes first priority there. I think that still it does fall on, it more often than not falls on the woman. And we've seen with COVID, the impact, there's been lots of studies on the impact of the working from home thing has been mainly felt by the women, even where both parents are working. It's the woman who picks up the schoolwork and, the house cleaning and everything. But I certainly do not believe, to answer Christy's question, that it is necessary for a plateau to raise healthy children. That was my choice. And not at all a necessary choice or not at all everyone's choice. The point I wanted to make is that if you decide to take that plateau, there is not a lot of support in the corporate world to get back afterwards. And also, if you take that plateau, it can lead to a very exciting second wind if you manage to get the support to get there. But I think it is a segment of the workforce that people are missing, people who have ended up taking a maternity plateau and helping them get back to the level they want to be at.
Brilliant. Gillian, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and for being here today, taking the time from your busy schedule. Brilliant to hear your ideas, and so spot on. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to the rest.
Thank you. We'll speak soon. Great. I'm going to ask Lizanne and Christy to step up to the stage with me while I do a quick share here. Great. While the ladies are jumping in, I just want to give you guys a little bit of context. We're very excited about the next session as well. So Lizanne Joubert is one of the senior most chartered accountants in Team Outsource CFO, who's been with us for a good many years. She's going to be talking about just female supporting entrepreneurs out in the ecosystem. And she's going to be interviewed by our very own Christy Fourie, who's in the systems team at Outsource CFO. Ladies, we're very excited to hear what you guys have come up with. Lizanne, are you able to jump on with your camera as well, please?
Hello, I would love to, but for some reason, I'm now getting a fail to start video camera message. So
okay.
I'm getting a message from our host to start it, but for some reason,
okay.
No.
Okay,
That's
sure. Okay. We can hear you nice and clearly. Christy, maybe you can just guide the conversation with Lizanne. If the camera sorts itself out, that's perfect. If it doesn't, at least you guys have seen what Lizanne looks like.
Excellent. Thanks, Lo. And it's a great privilege and honor to be introducing and interviewing Lizanne Joubert today. She's actually a personal mentor of mine and somebody whose career I've been watching very closely. So it's really special to be able to speak to you today, Lizanne, and to hear your insights and thoughts as a woman in business.
Right,
okay.
Thanks.
Lizanne, tell me a little bit about yourself. I think, we'd love to get a bit of context of your journey, and I think specifically, why did you decide to invest in the entrepreneurial sector specifically?
So I think I'm sort of an employee in an entrepreneurial environment, if that makes sense. Similar to Keelan's experience that she explained earlier, I started, I'm obviously an accountant, and I started my career in Cape Town And I then moved to London, where I spent about 9 years in the UK, which was a wonderful experience for me. But I missed family and I missed sunshine and guaranteed summer, and I returned to South Africa. And for me, at that stage, one of the things I really wanted to do on my return was to actually make a difference on an individual level to people. Because at that stage I was working, while I was in the UK, I worked for companies where I wouldn't always even know the board of directors that I would report to. And the shareholders were definitely faceless people behind names. So for me, being at Outsource CFO definitely brought two of my passions together. The one being in finance, and the other, on every single day, I have the opportunity to make a difference or to add value to individual entrepreneurs. So I can see, the difference that what I do make on a person who is an entrepreneur and who owns their own business, either in their own lives or how it impacts their employees and their clients. So yeah, that's what I really love about the whole entrepreneurial sector.
Fantastic, Lizanne. And I think you are an invaluable asset to have on a team of entrepreneurs, and forging their way through the business environment, especially in all of the uncertainty over the last couple of years. I guess my next question really follows on, just as a CFO to multiple companies. You've had so many opportunities to help entrepreneurs grow and scale and succeed. So I would love to know, what advice would you give to female entrepreneurs regarding their do's and don'ts?
I think my advice would probably be the same as what I would give to any entrepreneur. It will definitely be to start off with a passion, and to start a business and do something that you have a passion for and that you enjoy. Because you're probably not going to do this for 8 hours a day. It will probably be more. And you'll probably not only do this from Monday to Friday, it will probably creep into the rest of your weekend. So, it's important that you're in an environment and in an industry that you enjoy and that you have a passion for. I think it's important to surround yourself with the right team members, people who are competent and people who can support you in order for you to take the leadership position, if you are the leader and specifically of people in that company or in your entity. I think it's important to be true to yourself in your decisions that you make. I realize that's probably not always an easy thing, but I think if you don't stick to that, it can very easily start to create resentment, sort of internal resentment as to how you run your company. And I think then the old thing about, when you make decisions, so often we have to choose between our hearts and our heads. And I read actually something this morning which put it brilliantly. It said, if you can't choose between the heart and your head, follow your gut. So I really love that. And, I have a client, for instance, he's actually a male client, and he runs his business by following his gut. And it happens so many times that I would do calculations and I would say, it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't add up. I don't recommend that you buy this asset, or go into this side business or whatever. But somehow for him, it always works out. And sometimes he'll follow advice. Sometimes mostly he'll continue to follow his gut. But yeah, it always works out. So yeah, those would be my top do's and don'ts, I think.
That's fantastic, Lizanne. I think just to lead on to that, following your gut, I think, something women have in abundance is that intuition. And I think it's very interesting, to almost start leveraging that as, a natural gifting, this ability to sort of see things from a 360 perspective and really get a sense of, the environment without it necessarily being said. So I think that's really quite a strong point that many women possess, and also men. But I'd love to hear from you if you think there are any other sort of superpowers that you've seen your female clients, possess. Is there anything else that you think, us females we've really got a knack of doing this sort of thing? What do you think it is?
Probably a juggling and a balancing act.
Yes.
I think balancing, I think for everyone, especially lately, it's difficult to balance work and balance what they do at home. I think traditionally, for females, it's still more difficult potentially than for other people. And just, balancing all of that. I have a friend, for instance, who's, I always think of her when I feel overwhelmed with things that I need to do, but she has a part-time job. She supports her husband who's running his own company. She's busy with her master's degree. She has 4 kids who she homeschools. So I always think,
Wow.
yeah. And then I'm thinking, okay, here's me with, I don't have any kids. We just need to look after myself and my partner and my clients, really. I'm feeling overwhelmed. So yeah, I always take my hat off to people who, who have various different, if you look at that balance wheel of life, who have various different things that they need to focus on. So yeah, definitely juggling and balancing, I think.
Sure, I think, yeah, that's so true. I'm just thinking of my elder sister. We have a family business, and over the last couple months, it's just been absolutely chaotic. She's got a toddler and a newborn. And it's just incredible to see just that resolve to continue to push through as an entrepreneur, because of that passion and that drive that she has to see the vision that she has fulfilled. And I think ties into your piece of advice about doing something that you're really passionate about. I think, especially as a woman, you have to have a sense of purpose in what you're doing, because oftentimes you're going to have to make decisions and prioritize, what to sacrifice almost in order to, stick to that vision, albeit that you might not get much sleep, or you might have to work at strange hours. So I think that juggling ability coupled with that passion and that drive is really critical to be successful. Yay, you're back online.
I'm back. Oh, but I look a bit stretched, don't I?
You look good to me on my side. Awesome, Lizanne. Thanks for that. I think to just touch on Kaylin's incredible presentation. I mean, Kaylin, thank you so much. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But just speaking into, the idea of sort of this juggling as a woman, whether you decide to have a family or not, I think there is a certain amount of support that is needed. And I think I'd love to speak to that point specifically. Sort of what does support look like for women in business? And I think the first aspect of that I'd like you to unpack, Lizanne, is what do you think female entrepreneurs specifically can do to support themselves? And I mean this in a general sense. So I think, you can speak to whatever aspect of that you think is applicable.
Christy, I think, again, what I mentioned before about surrounding themselves with the right people, whether that's in your business, whether that's friends or family, supporting you in that. I think that's, to me, is very important, because it's, as Lo mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship can be a very lonely journey. So you do need the support of those people around you. I think, taking time out for themselves. And, as I mentioned, my friend earlier, with all those things that she's doing, I can't imagine where she has time for herself. And maybe that's the feeling for many other female entrepreneurs as well. But I know that's one of the things that energizes me. I need a lot of alone time by myself. So, and it may not necessarily be, being on your own, but, doing something fun with your kids or doing something fun with your family and your friends. So I think, yeah, and then something that's been talked about so often over the last while is self-care. What do you do for yourself that is taking care of yourself? So yeah, I think all those things are super important.
Definitely, Lazan. Yeah, I think self-care is the first thing to go out the window when you're when you're
Yeah.
needing to really replenish yourself. And I think women specifically, we tend to serve others and sacrifice that sense of self and that sense of
Mhm.
What is important to replenish me. The best version of myself that I can be is one that is, fully energized, fully restored, and not completely tapped out on all fronts. So I think it is super critical that we mention that. And I think self-care does get bandied about quite quickly and quite, without any real acknowledgement. But we do really need to take it seriously in order to be effective in the workplace and in any other sphere of life. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about, you mentioned a bit about your own support structures. Would you mind sort of expanding on that a little bit?
Sure. I think, my partner is a great support for me. He's also working in the entrepreneur industry. So we bounce a lot of ideas off each other. So for me, he's a great support. I find, especially over the last few months, I need, especially with us not being able to have big get-togethers with friends and family as we could in the past, it's still very important to me to have a group, to spend time with a group of female friends, just having that female energy, and share ideas as to how we experience things. So yeah, that's, having that support. And I guess then, making sure that I'm supporting myself, as you say, in a way, our cups need to be full in order to give elsewhere and to give it work. And as I've said, to me, I know I need alone time. And I take that alone time by going for walks and doing yoga. And I guess I create the time by organizing small things in my life. I know for some people, cooking is, a hobby and a big thing. It's not something I enjoy at all. So for me, a big treat is somehow ordering, ready-made meals, say once a week, and give myself a day off, a few days a week. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Just like sort of, I don't know, limiting your own, well, at least knocking down some of those expectations of having, a home cooked meal, ready for yourself and your partner, or whatever the case may be, because you've decided to prioritize something else. It's like you kind of choose what your priorities are, what's important to you, and build your life around that rather than these perceived expectations, which is, I definitely struggle with that. I'm newly married, so I'm like, everything needs to be organized.
I'll send you a link for the home cooked meals.
I'm not there yet. No, thanks for sharing some of your tips on that regard. And I think, I suppose in a business context, I'd also love you to sort of expand a little bit on kind of the role that you play for the female clients that you have, and what kind of support are you offering your clients, your female clients specifically, that you would say is unique to them? If you can expand on that a little.
I think I find, my main role is obviously being a consultant and giving advice. But I think I find myself in, monthly or weekly check-ins with my entrepreneurs, very easily jumping, from consulting to mentoring to coaching to just listening, for whatever is going on in their lives or in their business. So I especially like the, you know, the mentoring and the consulting bit as well, to bring that in, because sometimes people don't just need to hear what I think they need to do or what somebody else think they need to do. But, you know, by asking the right questions, somebody can get their own insights, which has a lot more power than being told what to do as such.
Sure. So you're kind of facilitating like a discovery process as part of your consultation.
Yeah, I think it depends on what the topic is. It depends on the, you know, what's going on in the person's business. Sometimes, you know, obviously if it's something complex like an accounting or tax issue, it won't help if I ask what's their idea or what they think the outcome should be. But, you know, on other things that, you know, that's not black and white and doesn't necessarily have a yes, no answer. It's great to bring that coaching side in.
Okay, fantastic. Sure, Lizanne, thank you so much for sharing those insights. I really, I just appreciate all of those golden nuggets. And just thank you again for your investment into the entrepreneurial community. And just don't do it alone, I think is something that really resonates out of this, is don't do it alone, get the support you need, and use it.
Well,
Thanks.
Always lovely chatting to you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Lizanne. Thank you, Christy. Thank you for sharing with us. Really great to hear all of that. Super appreciated as always. The good news is, everyone, that we found Rose. Rose, are you able to put your camera on and jump online with me? This is Rose. There we go.
Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, but I'm so glad that I could make it.
That's okay, Rose. Thank you very much for being here with us today. We're glad we can still catch you and hear some of your thoughts today. Guys, Rose is the founder of Virtue HR Solutions, and she's a people specialist and deals with people matters within growing companies every day. And we should have some really good insights in terms of just kind of like females operating in the people management, people performance area. Rose, we'll hand over to you.
Sure. Great. So it was very interesting when I got a little bit of the topic of the things that we were going to discuss, because I tried to see, you know, do I act differently or go about my work differently when I work with females than males? And I think there's not a distinctive thing that one would do differently. But I do think when it comes to identification, right, because one goes through the struggles and having family and all the things that we were, just chatting about. And I think that creates a different bond. So I think that one can position yourself differently when you know what someone is going through exactly. So I guess that from that point of view, I understand that it creates a different bond, right? Having said that, when it comes to career and with females particularly, I would say for me an advantage is that I come from a different culture. And I guess that puts a different lens in the way I see work dynamics, right? Because it's not my what I would consider what I was born with, right? So I would see things with a different lens, which means that when I do my interventions at different clients, I start very much with a very, wide canvas, right? Like anything that happens in terms of dynamics for me will be something new to address and very different from what I'm used to. Particularly in South Africa, what I find is that everybody here is too polite, and I think it's a great thing. But I come from a different culture where we are much more straightforward with the way we speak and the way we deliver messages. So I find that to be a little bit of an added advantage for when playing the role of HR for my clients, because I do help create channels of communication where it is really about discussing things that would be maybe things that, people will try to maybe not address or just be polite about it, right? I'm not saying that I'm not that I'm disruptive, but I try to find that balance in between, because I come from a different culture. I can just help identify certain things that maybe are considered just standard, but without being questioned, if that makes sense. So particularly I would say for females, that's quite, a little bit of a different approach when it comes, for example, to having performance reviews or discussing just career development in general, right? And I do really like to bring also, because I have now my business for 6 years, and one gets used to speaking numbers and business numbers. So what I like to bring to my sessions as well is that awareness in terms of the particular roles that, where females are involved, to say, okay, do you know what's your hourly rate, and do you know the value that you're adding, and how do you consider your metrics around your roles, and just to add that, level of awareness of like, when you work in a role, it's not only about just ticking a job description, but actually let's speak business. How does this affect, right? What's the outputs that you're bringing into the table? And I think that changed the conversation a little bit as well, specifically for women. And why I would say that is because I find that we would be more inclined in a way to look into things that is difficult to find measures, right? So for example, to have a quality conversation, right? That has a lot of value for a business when it comes to like a performance discussion. And that wouldn't necessarily be seen as something that, how do we measure the impact that we can, the value that we can add. So trying to change that conversation for things that are maybe more perceived as less objective, or, how do we quantify this, to try and make it more a conversation related to business terms. I think that really helps with career-wise, and I particularly have seen this with women, right? So I think that a good takeaway would be that when it's good to work with, even though it's in your own culture, just to work with a empty canvas, and to know that you can very much just not always fall into what the dynamics are perceived to be, how we should be doing things, but actually to question things. And as I said, it's not that one needs to be disruptive about it, but just be critical about it, to be like, why is that we're doing things the way we're doing them? Or, this is something that I like to mention. How do I make sure that I can bring it up without really, sounding disruptive, but the fact that you can still kind of raise your voice, if that makes sense. So allowing for those spaces for me is very, I can see how enlightening it can be for particularly for females, I would say. And then something else that I think helps when it comes to me and how I would, I just heard Lisanne speaking about how do you get energy and how do you also get inspiration in terms of the work we do, and then also when it comes to this kind of like balancing between having kids and having a business, and then your own personal development. I think that what works for me, you were speaking about mentorship. I like to be stimulated in my field. So when I like to network, it's always related to upskilling and getting knowledge in a particular field that I like, right? So I wouldn't necessarily enjoy, mingling or networking when it comes to more on the softer skills, but more so in the technical skills. So really upskilling. I think that helps me a lot. I particularly have a network for HR where it's so nice. It's all, HR people from different companies, and then we bounce cases, we bounce ideas, and that is such an uplifting, because obviously this is all, volunteer your time to help other people in HR and bring different cases on board and things like that. So that really works for me in terms of, and it's all women, that's why I bring it up. It's a network of female in HR. And then also podcasts really help me as well when it comes to with energy, really helps me with energy. So I have a routine in the morning where when I take my kids to school and they're in the car, we will do like a 20-minute podcast session. And this is a nice podcast because it is like 20 minutes long. And it's so nice to see how also they are taking on it, right? That every morning when we hop in the car, they'll be like, okay, it's Rob Dial on. So then it's all about discussing, and that's more on the motivational side, right? And it's all about people that run businesses. So it's just digesting little topics related to your energy levels and things like that. And it really helps me, it boosts me. And I think that relates to kind of when you get to know yourself and you know ways that you need, what are the things that really make you more, gives you more energy, right? So I think self-development is a big one. In that case, my background is in psychology. So I think that was in a way a little bit more paid for me to know that I had to invest a lot of my time in self-awareness and, what works with me and things like that. But as you also were saying, it is all hello? There we go. It is all very much a balancing act. Nobody's perfect. We all go through stages. Something that I managed to figure from just continuing with the business along the years is that I can see patterns, and that has been very insightful to identify. So patterns of productivity, patterns related to motivation and my energy levels. And I think it's important to identify, your own patterns. I use timesheets, right? So for me, it's very easy to identify waves of things. Like when I work in different projects, different areas of HR, then my productivity levels will go up or things like that. That's very insightful, to look into kind of bigger picture patterns. It can throw a lot of information about yourself. When do you need breaks? Because of my kids being at school, every quarter I need to take a break. And sometimes it feels like it's disruptive to me to have to cut. Sometimes I really need it. So when do you need to recharge your batteries and things like that? I think that's very important. And even though we think, it's erratic how it goes, you can't really find cycles. I think if you're really into identifying those patterns, you will find them eventually. And it makes a difference, because it's also not nice to feel like one is erratic, in terms of this happened, how I address it. But then when you address it on a second time, on a third time, then you realize, okay, so how do I either prevent it from happening, or how do I just acknowledge that, I need to take a break or things like that? That has been a good learning point. Yeah.
Right. Rose, thank you so much for all the lessons you've shared. Definitely, I see there's quite a lot of men on the call actually today. It's really cool to see. I think there's a couple of things you said that can resonate with everyone on the call. So that's really exciting. So glad your internet settled and that you could be here with us today. Thank you very much for making the time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Lo.
Thanks so much, man. Okay, guys, we're going to ask Stembile to step up next. Stembile, would you mind putting your camera on and jumping on with me? Brilliant. Okay, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. So good to have you.
Good. Is my sound okay? Can you hear me okay?
It's perfect on this side. Thank you so much.
Great.
Guys, so this is I feel like this is a rare appearance of a magical woman who's here with us today, who's going to be sharing all of her private equity insights with us and teach us all how to invest and operate in the world of private equity. Stembile, it's great to have a female of your caliber in a role like that with the fund you've set up that we'd all love to hear about. Over to you for the next session. Thanks so much for being here.
Perfect. Thanks, Lo. Hi everyone. It's great to be here and to be talking to you all. I wish I could see you all. It feels so weird talking into a screen where I can see my face, but I can't see anyone. So as Lo mentioned, I'm in private equity, and essentially we invest in established businesses. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is about the things that I would look for as an investor in businesses. Obviously, most of you are entrepreneurs, and I think it's important to understand what I as an investor would look for. But I want to do it with a little bit of a twist, in the sense that, I'm assuming that as an investor, when you look at a company, you are obviously going to look at the numbers. All investors look at the numbers. They all look at the returns. So assuming that the numbers and the returns and the product that you are selling as an entrepreneur stacks up, I want to look at the softer side of things as to what do I look for as an investor on the softer side. So the numbers stack up. I'm happy with the fact that I'll make my returns. What do I look for as an investor? So I'm just going to share a short presentation that I have prepared. I don't know if it's visible. Can somebody let me know if it's visible?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, let me just start it from the beginning. You can still see it though?
Perfect, thank you.
Great, great. So the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of what I look for as an investor, the softer side, is purpose. So is the entrepreneur that I'm backing, do they understand what their purpose is? And when I mean purpose, it goes beyond just making money. It goes beyond making profits or being the biggest company in that field. It's about what are you actually trying to achieve? And there's a famous book written by a guy called Simon Sinek that says, start with why. And in that book, he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So it's critically important for me as an investor to understand from your perspective as an entrepreneur, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you selling what you're selling? Because investors don't just buy into your business because of the numbers. Of course, the numbers are important, as I've explained, but they also buy into the business because of your story. And the story that you communicate and how you articulate it is how you connect with your investors. It's how you connect with your customers. So having a clear purpose as to why you are setting up your business is critically important. Communicating that purpose and communicating it with passion, having a passionate way to communicate that purpose is critically important. I like backing entrepreneurs who I know are passionate about what they're doing and who think beyond just the product, who have a bigger purpose for the companies that they are setting up. So the first thing that I look for on the softer side of things is entrepreneurs with purpose that understand their why fundamentally, that have a core belief as to why they're setting up their businesses, and that can sell that to me because then I connect with them a lot easier. The second thing I wanted to talk about is vision. And I love this quote that says, we are not limited by our abilities, but by our vision. I'm not sure who said it, it's anonymous. But essentially, once you understand your why, so now you've articulated what your why is, why you've set this business up, you need to understand where you are going and also be able to articulate that to me as an investor. And I wanted to encourage, us as females, we often almost second guess ourselves, but dare to be bold with your vision. Dare to be audacious. Let it scare you. Don't stay within your comfort zone in having that vision for your company. Understand today, where do you want your company to be? And try and be intentional about getting there. So having a vision is great, of course, and writing down some articulate things about what your vision is all about. But if you don't have a strategy as to how to get there, that vision is as good as just some beautiful words on a piece of paper. So understand intentionally what you're going to do each and every day in order to get to where you want your business to be. So although you may be a small startup right now, you may be in a couple of years or wherever you are in your business cycle, understand and plan for where you want to get to. Understand how you're going to scale, have a strategy in place to get you there. So that as you talk to an investor, you can then articulate that to them again. This is where I am today. This is where I want to be. This is how I'm going to get there. So a visionary entrepreneur is an entrepreneur that I want to back. So having a vision is critically important, and being able to articulate that to your investors and being able to also map it out. So not just saying this is my vision, this is where I want to be, but being able to map that out clearly is something that I look for in entrepreneurs. The fourth thing is a term that was actually coined by a Harvard professor, and he calls it exploit and explore. So what does he mean by exploit? Exploit talks to competitive advantage, right? So as a business, of course, as an investor, I'm looking for a business that has a competitive advantage, that has a clear competitive advantage. I want to invest in a business that I know understands what gives them that edge over and above their competitors. So identify and understand your competitive advantage very clearly. What makes you different from your other peers in the industry? What makes you special? What makes you stand above them? Understand this specifically, what it is for you and what it is for your business. So the picture that I have up here is a picture of what looks like a very pretty castle, but actually what's surrounding this castle is something that's called a moat. And a moat is a deep, wide ditch surrounding a castle, a fort, or a town, typically filled with water and intended as a defense against attack. And this term was also coined by Warren Buffett in saying that when you have a business, you must build your moat. You must build that defense around your business. And this talks to the fact that whatever competitive advantage you've identified, once you've gone through that stage of saying, this is my competitive advantage, build up that competitive advantage, build your defense and your moat around your business such that you keep building and adding onto the competitive advantage so that you are miles ahead of your competitors. So exploit the competitive advantage, keep building on it so that there is not an easy way for competitors to come and attack you, because your moat around your business will be very, very strong. Explore means innovating. So this quote that I love as well says, change is inevitable and innovation is no different. So as much as you've identified your competitive advantage, and as I said, as an investor, I want to understand that very clearly. But I also want to understand, how are you future-proofing your business? And for me, that talks to innovation, because change is inevitable, but innovation is no different. So you need to keep innovating. Don't underestimate the fact that your status quo will stay the same. Always question your status quo. Build on your innovation in your business, question what you are doing, and always try and understand, how can I do things better? How can I innovate from where I am? We all know the businesses that had huge competitive advantages, businesses like Kodak, businesses like BlackBerry, businesses like Blockbuster. These businesses had huge competitive advantages. They thought they had moats around them, but they failed to innovate. And because they failed to innovate, they then failed to become businesses that are sustainable, that could live within the future. So as much as you are exploiting your competitive advantage, exploit, but also explore, innovate. So at the same time that you are exploiting, also explore. The other thing I wanted to talk about is something that is more personal. So this is going a little bit off gear in terms of what I'd look for as an investor, but something that I think is critical for the entrepreneurs that I want to back as an investor. The first thing is cheerleaders, okay? And when I say cheerleaders, I'm talking about the voices that surround you. We all have a lot of voices that surround us in our lives. They can come from our friends, they can come from our partners, they can come from our investors. Some are positive, some are not so positive. Some of these voices will break us down, some of them will build us up. But the most important voice out of all these voices is the voice that comes from your own head. And we all know that we all speak to ourselves on a daily basis, hourly, every minute we speak to ourselves. Be careful of the things that you tell yourself. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. The voices that you have in your own head have to be ones that are where you're backing yourself, where you're affirming yourself, where you're telling yourself that you've got this, that you are amazing. Because not everyone will buy into your story. People will reject you. Investors will reject you. Some entrepreneurs approach me and I say, this is not something that I can invest in. It doesn't mean that all investors will say the same thing. So ultimately, you need to back yourself. I actually had an experience this week where I was trying to venture into something and I was feeling a little bit like I was inexperienced for this thing that I wanted to venture in. And a friend of mine said to me, you know, Sembile, when Trump wanted to be the president, he wasn't duly qualified to do so, but he put his name there and look at what happened. And I'm not a proponent of Trump's at all. And he's not one that I would look up to as a role model. But one thing that Trump does have is he backs himself. And so we can learn a thing or two from that, because as women, we always have these fears. We always second guess ourselves. We doubt our abilities. We think that we're not as smart as we should be. We don't think we're as experienced as we should be. And having that voice in your head that backs yourself is critically important. As you notice that I love quotes, and this is one of my favorite quotes. It says, a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking, because its trust is not in the branch, but on its own wings. It's trusting yourself, backing the fact that your wings will allow you to fly and they will allow you to soar. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is filling your cup up. Again, maybe not something that I look for as an investor, but something that I think is critically important for entrepreneurs. And the reason I say this is because as an entrepreneur, you know, we get very busy. You're the marketing manager, you're the finance manager, you're the operations director, you're trying to build up a business, and we work super hard day in, day out, on weekends, trying to build a business, which is amazing. However, in doing this, don't forget to fill up your cup. And I've deliberately chosen a picture of a wine glass with some wine because, you know, that's a nice cup to fill. But do the things that make you feel whole. Do things that make you feel balanced. For me, that is meditation and yoga. For me, it's being active, being with people that I love, my family and my friends. Fill up your cup and understand that when you do that, you're actually a better person. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So give the world the best of you by doing a little bit of filling up your cup and looking after yourself. So that is my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing at this point. Let me see how to do that. Oh, sorry, I am a little bit lost now. My technology is failing me.
That's okay. There should be a...
I know, there should be a thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
Let
me see if I can help.
Let's see. I'm not finding it, Lo.
Let me see.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. I've managed to do an override. We've got it.
Great. So yeah, so that's effectively what I want to share with everyone, Laura, just in terms of some of the softer sides of what I'd look for as an investor.
That's absolutely amazing. Thanks so much. I've got passion and purpose here. I have got exploit and explore, be your own cheerleader, and remember to fill up your cup and/or wine glass. I think I think that's a couple of really, really good lessons. Thank you so much for sharing them. I think that's an amazing insight and so cool to have you on the call with us today. I know how valuable your time is, and you're jumping into another meeting in 5 minutes from now. So thanks for making the time to share with everyone on the call today.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoy that, and I look forward to, hopefully you can record this so that I can watch some of the other speakers as I'm going into another meeting.
Absolutely, recordings will be available. Thanks for being here.
Perfect. Cheers, everyone.
All right, I see Yvonne is online, camera on point as always. Can we get Yvonne on the stage with me, please? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, this is Yvonne Wakefield. She's the founder of Caveat Legal, one of the most disruptive legal firms on the continent, if not the world. One of the smartest entrepreneurs we've had the privilege of working with over the last couple of years, and very grateful to have her here today to share with us from a female founder's perspective, just a little bit about her journey in building her really exciting company over the years. Yvonne, without much further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Lo. Lovely to see you as always, and I'm imagining that I can see all of you. Lovely to be able to chat to you today. While I was preparing for this talk, I was thinking about, the context, women in business, and I kept being struck by how much we're expected to carry these days. Have you ever wondered how our grandparents and their grandparents could possibly have thought of themselves as busy? They lived lives at a much slower pace than we do. They assimilated a fraction of the input that we work through every day. Have you ever wondered how on earth we'll be able to survive with the exponential increase in information, responsibility, and expected output at an exponentially faster pace in future? In this day and age, what we are expected to carry is impossible, and it's only going to increase. And this used to keep me up at night, but thankfully not anymore, which is what I want to share with you today. Through trial and error, I've worked out 3 principles that, with ruthless application, have left me with extra time and space to play with, and a level of freedom, success, and contentment I had not imagined possible. What I've learned from my own journey It's not necessarily specific to being a woman or being a woman in business, but I'd like to share it because it's been so profound for me, and it's the thing that most people comment on when they meet me and get to know me and the business. My business, Caveat Legal, is a virtual law firm, an Airbnb for lawyers, if you will. We have around 50 top-tier legal specialists who we make available to businesses through our online platform that removes most of the bulk and cost that's usually associated with lawyers. Our business model was so robust that we didn't need to make a single change when COVID hit. And not only that, but we posted revenue growth of 65% that year, just in time to celebrate our 10th birthday this year. I'm also a single mom with 3 kids, a dog, a functional-ish household, and I'm also the founder of an NGO that tackles gender-based violence. I've also survived a marriage plagued with addiction, abuse, and infidelity. I've checked myself into Crescent Clinic for burnout, and I've been happily in therapy for a number of years. So what are these principles that make surviving and thriving in the overload possible for me? I will set them out here. Number 1, simplicity. In this life, I truly believe it's survival of the simplest. Simplicity to me means stripping out the non-essential, slimming things down and keeping them absolutely basic. Number 2, design. Design every aspect of life for efficiency and freedom. This means being deliberate in building systems that work, moving things around and making iterative adjustments to achieve efficiency. And number 3, consistency. Positive change, I've noticed, comes only from repeated and ongoing application of the same principles. Simplicity, design, consistency. So for each area of overwhelm for me, the process that I've followed has been as follows. I've stripped it of everything that is not either the thing that I want or in service of the thing that I want. I've designed and built exactly what I want with what's left behind, and I've followed this up by consistently re-implementing and reinforcing it every day. Simplicity, design, consistency. I believe that in future, our success and possibly even our ultimate survival will depend on our focus on these principles. It's going to be survival of the simplest. So let's have a look at this in more depth. I'll use 2 aspects of my own life to illustrate. First, in business, the key to the Caveat business model is absolute simplicity. Simplicity for clients, simplicity for lawyers, simplicity for me and our other management team. Every decision is made with a view to reducing complexity. For example, I work to remove complexity and friction points for clients and lawyers every day. And I've also removed or outsourced all tasks that make my work complex or take me out of flow. The result is that Caveat is now a huge machine with no offices and only 1 employee on the payroll. That's me. Then in my personal life, the key to my happiness has also been absolute simplicity. I have removed all things that unnecessarily take time, like driving, or energy, like draining friendships or tasks that create power struggles with my kids. And I focus only on the things that feed us. So the result is that my life looks, on any given day, something like this. I wake up every morning to the tinkling sound of my sons unpacking the dishwasher. This is after they've woken up, dressed themselves, and made their school lunch. I take the dog for a quick walk. I make breakfast for us and do a craft activity with my daughter, her favorite thing at breakfast time. The boys walk to school. I walk Anna to school. I work, but only on the things I like. The rest is done by more capable and inspired people. I meditate. I exercise, often with one or other of my dear friends. I do most of the extramural runs on foot. I work some more. The kids do their homework in their own time. And when they're finished, they sign my name in their homework diaries, which is what I taught them to do on the first day they got homework. We then cook and have dinner together, and we hang out in the evening before bed. This didn't happen by accident. I was very deliberate in stripping out all the unnecessary and designing our lives for efficiency and freedom. And now we live these principles consistently every day. Simplicity, design, consistency. If this resonates with you, give it a try. Like most things in life, you may find that by living these principles, you'll attract those with similar values in work and in life. It's been amazing and gratifying to see how those who align with our values seek Caveat out for their legal work time and time again, and refer us to other like-minded people in business. the whole process is very easy and natural, and it takes absolutely no force. With this level of careful thought and deliberate action, vital change takes shape, and importantly, vital space opens up for life. It really, really is that simple.
Sure. When is the book coming out, Yvonne?
I'm not sure how long that was, but I'm available for questions if anybody has any.
That's perfect. Thank you very much for that, guys. If there's a question, see there's a comment on Goosebumps. Such a strong woman, Yvonne. Well done for rising. Coming from Banadis there, guys. If anyone has a question in the last minute for Yvonne, you're welcome to post it. Just kind of like reiterating, I've got notes here on simplicity and design and consistency. And the two words I'm marking this talk around would be being deliberate and being intentional with your life, the kind of life you want to lead and the kind of business you want to have. Yeah, lots of food for thought for all of us. Everyone is just heaping praise on you in the comments at the moment, Yvonne. How did you get the boys to unpack the dishwasher from Christy? That's a good question.
How did I get them to do it?
Yes, literally, we'd love to hear.
It's just their job. I mean, it's just their job, and you know, the one does the top shelf and the other does the bottom shelf, and they each have a day. So if the day of the month is an odd day, then it's Daniel's day. If the day of the month is an even day, then it's Joseph's day. And if it's your day, you get to sit in the front of the car or choose which shelf in the dishwasher you're going to do. So there's no fighting about the front seat or the dishwasher. They just know who does the top shelf, who does the bottom shelf. And they've been doing it for years, and nobody asks them, and they just do it.
Amazing. That's amazing. Sure. One question here on a tip or two for the design process, the second step you covered.
Design has been, it's been amazing for me because it's given me this outlet for my own creativity that I didn't really know that I had. And it really has been about finding solutions that are just make the most sense and that are the most simple. So, you know, for example, I had the privilege of making a decision about where to live, and I found a place that was 300 meters from the one school and 700 meters from the other school. So that's now where I live. And then I built the house, and then you know, I noticed that the boys' bedrooms are just above the scullery. So I thought, well, why don't we put in a laundry chute so that they can just drop their stuff in a little trapdoor in their cupboards and it can come out in the scullery. So that's what we did, you know. So it's really, you know, every single decision has been very deliberate, and it's been, you know, trying to aim to just remove every point of friction in our lives.
Sure. Wow. Yvonne, this is definitely some of the most feedback I've seen on one of these talks. This keynote is going to definitely go far, and we want to see the book. And you are being promoted as president here, also. I see. Thank you very much for sharing with us. That's absolutely amazing. Appreciate the time out of your open diary that you shared with us today. Great to have you as always, and so inspiring to just listen to you. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Guys, we are down to our last session. Laura, I see you're on the call. Would you mind putting your video on?
How's it? Hi, Lo. How are you?
Hey, well, and yourself?
It is. I'm good, thank you. I must apologize. I must apologize for lack of video. So my voice is going to have to do.
That's perfect. Sorry, guys. Laura won't be able to put a video on today. It'll just be me that you guys are going to have a look at. Let me get the presentation on. Then you guys can see her. Give me a second. Here we go. Brilliant. Okay, maybe this makes the most sense, and you guys can see Laura. Laura, welcome. It's so great to have you. I know your schedule is also like incredibly busy, so it's great to have you here with us today. Laura heads up the Entrepreneur Development and Incubation at the Cape IT Initiative, which is one of the oldest tech incubator on the continent, and also a very inspiring place to set up. When we started our company almost 8 years ago, we set up at the Cape IT Initiative and the Bandwidth Barn out in Woodstock with our little desk spaces to get started, and so have Laura, you can correct me, but like over 10,000 entrepreneurs, I think, by now.
Lo,
So
you are 100% correct. Thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
But your and Donna's story is specific because you used to have a ping pong table in your office. Am I correct? I don't know if there were any desks in your office at the time, but it is a story that we tell often at City. So you guys were really, really part of the beginning of the story.
Those are some fond memories, Laura. We had lots of time on our hands, very early days, but you guys sponsored us with 6 months of free desk space and internet. And there was a ping pong table where we got all of our best ideas from right there.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Lo. Thanks for having me, and thanks, Donna. It's always great to do anything with Outsource CFO.
Oh man, it's so great to be partnered with you guys, to have come full circle and to be working together on some really exciting projects for entrepreneurs all around the country at the moment. It's so good to have you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lo.
Brilliant, guys. So the last kind of session that we have is just a short interview on everything kind of incubation related with Laura. She's been dedicating her career to helping early stage entrepreneurs do better, build great businesses in a country where I think early stage entrepreneurship is one of the absolute keys to the success of the economy and the success of the country as a whole, and all of the social fabric of it. So such important work. Laura, would you mind just sharing a little bit about just the work that you guys do specifically and your role within that?
So as City, my role is head of entrepreneur development and incubation. So what I'm looking to do and what we're always looking to achieve within our department is to move entrepreneurs to the next growth checkpoints in their journeys. And maybe as this is a Women's Day event, maybe just to share with you one of our flagship programs, which is called our Women in Business program. And it's a tech enablement program for women who've been in business for a minimum of 6 months. And this program really serves to enable women to compete in the digital economy by equipping them with the most up-to-date technology tools. And what was very interesting is what started out as a tech enablement program for women entrepreneurs has morphed and evolved and grown into an ecosystem of female entrepreneurs supporting each other, guiding each other, and helping each other through the journey of entrepreneurship. And that was really something that came about as a result of the activities of the program, and it was as a result of the needs of the women in the program. So, you start out to run a tech enablement program, and a few years later, you've got an ecosystem of over 2,000 women who've graduated and who are supporting and helping each other, which I think is the magic of entrepreneurship. All the things that happen that weren't necessarily planned, but are really positive and positively impact the lives of the entrepreneurs that you work with.
That's amazing, Laura. Yeah, I think just it's that consistency that Yvonne spoke of now, right? Just doing something consistently over time just creates traction if you do it right and focus on the right elements.
Absolutely. And the lady that spoke before Yvonne, I think it was Sitembele, she spoke about cheerleaders.
Yes.
And we've almost created a whole group of cheerleaders of women who really are cheering each other on and looking to support each other rather than compete, which is amazing.
That's amazing, Laura. How many applications are you guys getting currently for that Female Founders program of yours?
So for the Top Tech Tools for Women in Business, Lo, I've currently got 2,000 applications in process. 2,000
applications
in process.
Unbelievable. Sure. It must be the most successful of its kind then in existence on the continent, right?
You know what, Lo, we're just doing the best that we can to empower our female entrepreneurs in the best way possible that we feel is the best way possible. And I believe that there are other great programs out there, but we strive to make our program a flagship program and to give these women all the things that we feel would enable to move them forward. And Lo, I see the second question that you'd asked me, which kind of ties in, is what are the lessons learned from running these programs? And so much of what the previous speakers said resonated with me. But there are just a couple of things that I've learned. Some lessons were harder than others. So just the first thing was that the entrepreneurial journey is definitely not linear. And although it may resemble the journeys of others, it's not the same. And I used to have a picture in my Joburg office of this massive, complicated, nauseating looking roller coaster. And it was in my Joburg office. And I used to walk in. I actually didn't used to walk in. I used to climb. We decided we wanted to think differently as young entrepreneurs. So we actually used to enter our Joburg office through the window. It was quite bizarre, in heels. We've actually landed in some magazines once. Somebody took some pictures.
Wow.
But you come into the office, and I used to look at this roller coaster, and I used to think, well, where am I today on this roller coaster? Because yesterday I thought I was on the up. Yesterday things looked good. But today I seem to be turning the corner and not going in the desired, direction. The following week you're upside down. So the entrepreneurial journey is not linear, and I don't think any two journeys are the same. But what I do know for sure is that success leaves clues, and so do failures. So when, as an entrepreneur, you've done something really great, share the clues of that greatness with somebody else. As in the amazing session before me, three great tips that worked for a successful entrepreneur and were able to drive her forward. Success leaves clues. Look at the success of others. See what they've done and how they've achieved it. Connect in with others. Ask them. There are a couple of entrepreneurs that work in my space, and we're in effect competitors with one another. But there've often been times where I've picked up the phone and asked, "How did you do that?" Because it didn't make sense to me. And we've shared information and shared knowledge with one another, which I think is so important. And another factor on our program, as important as it is, to teach people or to become an expert in the hard skills that you're required to do your job really well, I also think it's really, really important, and I dare to say even as important or even more important, to become really good at the human skills. So I like the term human skills. I'm not a fan of soft skills. Simon Sinek coined human skills, and I really like that term. And it's the balance between the hard skills and the human skills where I think the magic lies for entrepreneurs. So if we want to be better leaders, if we want to be better listeners, if we want to be more empathic, I think the secret sauce is balancing those two, and I think also being able to be comfortable in being uncomfortable and out of balance, within the entrepreneurial journey. A couple of years ago, I was asked by a magazine to write an article about how important it is to be a balanced entrepreneur and 10 tips on how to be a balanced entrepreneur. Well, I definitely don't think they got the article that they were hoping for, because I think balanced entrepreneur is as much of an oxymoron as Virgin Active, small crowd, exact estimate. I think balanced entrepreneur fits completely in with those oxymorons, because I think as an entrepreneur, you're really great at different aspects of your business and perhaps different aspects of your personal life at different times. There may be a particular time where your business needs absolute laser focus, and you have a period where you are laser focused on your business, but perhaps other parts of your life do not receive the attention that they would usually require from you, or that you feel that they deserve. And I think it's to be able to be comfortable in this out of balance feeling, and knowing that some periods are more balanced than others, but it's not continually balanced. Well, it hasn't been for me as an entrepreneur and as a mom. It has never been completely balanced, across all spheres for me.
Makes me think of a quote from a big business coach that once said, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. Which I thought, that's so true, right? I think entrepreneurs start out very ambitious and very optimistic, which is great. You absolutely need that. But it does take 10 or 15 years or something of the sort to get to a point where maybe someone like Yvonne is right now. And it can easily take 10 or 15 years, and you can still not be there depending on how things go. It's a complicated journey, like you mentioned. I love that roller coaster analogy you used.
And I don't know if Yvonne's still on the call, but Yvonne has all these years of experience where things were not going as they should for her. And she took those lessons and figured out how to shift and change that into the life that she has today, that operates in a way that works for her and her family.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to get back to you, the success leaves clues that you mentioned. If you were to think of, from these thousands of entrepreneurs, of one female founder that's a standout success, is there one story you'd be able to share with us, just in terms of a big success female founder that have come through the ranks with you guys?
So Lo, there are many, and in thinking about answering this question, I wanted to think, what was the common thread between these successful women that have come through? What have they done that perhaps other women haven't done? And the first thing is they've stayed in the game. They stayed in the
Okay.
game when it was hard. They stayed in the game when it was unattractive. They stayed in the game when they weren't sure if they were going to make it,
Sure.
but they stayed in the game. The other thing that they did that I thought was really great was they surrounded themselves with successful people. They had great mentors, be they financial mentors, business mentors, coaches, whatever they needed in order to move them forward successfully. They surrounded themselves with the right people, and they were not scared to ask for advice. You know, someone once said to me that they found entrepreneurship to be quite a lonely road. And one of my absolute key focus areas in building the programs that we do at City is that we don't want any entrepreneur to feel lonely. And when you feel supported and guided, and that you have the right people to go to for the right bits of information, I feel that can make the journey a lot easier and a lot more comfortable. I mean, it's a bumpy ride, we know, but definitely a lot more comfortable as you go along. So these successful women have really, really surrounded themselves by an unbelievable team of mentors, you know, either formal or informal.
Brilliant. No, I love that, Laura. I think mentorship and finding coaches and mentors is such a big deal. We were discussing it this week at the company meeting at Outsource CFO as well, how important having a mentor is. And it makes me think of that, you know, kind of 8 years ago, we sat in some of those classes with a sales mentor and a marketing mentor and a networking mentor, and a pitching mentor, to learn from all these people, you know, kind of like coming out of an accounting and auditing profession. There's quite a lot of skills you need to learn, regardless of your background. When you start a company, you need to learn a whole lot of things you've never dealt with before. So having people who've like really specialized in it and who've walked the walk on something like, for instance, a specialized skill like legal or marketing or finance or something of the sort is so valuable, and saves you so many years of making mistakes, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's one of our partnerships with Outsource CFO. We found that businesses, exactly what you said, Lo, they need different mentors at different times in the entrepreneurial journey and for different things. You know, a financial mentor gives you specific financial tools for your business, whereas a marketing mentor would give you something completely different.
Sure.
And if you're able to build a team of mentors and people to support you who've got expertise in various areas, you're almost creating a board of directors for yourself. And there shouldn't be a time where you wouldn't have somebody to call or to ask for advice or for guidance. And I feel that that's incredibly important. And I mean, I know that you and Dana feel the same way, because it's a project that we're working on together to ensure that the businesses that come through City and come through our City programs that need specific finance mentors, we want to give them the best of the best. And in our partnership with Outsource CFO, we know that we're doing that.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we're so excited to be working with you guys on just helping all of these emerging entrepreneurs get the head start that we got all those years ago.
No, absolutely. And it's of paramount importance. So just to keep an eye on exciting things from City, our partnership with Outsource CFO, we've just recently hired a great new head for our biotech cluster. We have an edtech cluster. We've got our digital skills campus, and we're always looking to build new products and create new services that fit the demand of the client. So we're always looking to see what are the gaps and how can we better empower and equip our entrepreneurs. I mean, of course, as you know, I have a passion for women entrepreneurs, but we don't only serve women entrepreneurs. We serve entrepreneurs across the board, from ideation phase businesses to build and grow and grow and scale businesses as well.
Laura, thank you so much for sharing some of the parts of this journey of yours, and just kind of some of the inspiring things you guys are busy with. So it's so cool to hear how you're plowing into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Maybe just one last ask, if you don't mind, as kind of like a wrap up for our Female Founders Conference today. Just kind of like, if you had like one message to female entrepreneurs or professionals out there doing their thing, what would your message be today?
I think it would be exactly what I just said. Make sure that you are surrounded by the right team. Make sure that you have all the support that you need to empower you on your journey. You'll never be sorry.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Laura, that's gorgeous. I really love that, and really appreciate you being here with us today. It's been a blast having you.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you all.
Perfect. We'll speak very soon.
Thanks, Lo. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, everyone. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Thank you very much for everyone who's been here with us. It's been great to have a good crowd of people with us today, founders and professionals and people from different walks of life. I think there have been some amazing golden nuggets, and there are definitely a few keynotes here that have to be sent to TED or be converted into a book for sure. Thank you for your time and your focus and your presence today here. I hope you've taken some proper nuggets away that you can use in your life, use in your business, use in your work, and that will help propel your career and your life forward. We look forward to connecting with all of you guys very, very soon. Thank you for being here with us today. Look out for Founders Conference in November. We'll have our big flagship event at the end of the year in Global Entrepreneurship Week Founders Conference, and we'll have a couple of hundred of entrepreneurs and founders together for that. We'll see you guys as we go. All the best.